Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza's bond speaks louder than words. In the ever-changing world of showbiz, where relationships often fade as quickly as they rise, there are rare connections that continue to stand the test of time. And for fans of Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza, a new wave of buzz is bringing back a familiar feeling: hope. This time, the spotlight turns to bossing himself, Vic Sotto, whose name has once again been linked to a statement that's capturing hearts, that Alden and Maine are still loyal to each other. But what does loyal really mean in a story like theirs? A statement that sparked emotions. When the name of Vic Sotto enters the conversation, fans listen closely. As someone who witnessed the rise of Alden firsthand on Eat Bulaga, his words carry a sense of authority and familiarity. So when rumors spread that he hinted at Alden and Maine's continued loyalty, it didn't just create noise. It created emotion. For many fans, it felt like a quiet confirmation of something they have always believed, that beyond the cameras, beyond the scripts, there was something real worth holding on to. Loyalty beyond labels. Loyalty, in the context of Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza, does not necessarily have to mean romance.
It can mean respect.
It can mean gratitude. It can mean choosing not to speak negatively about each other, even as time passes and paths change. And if there is one thing both Alden and Maine have consistently shown over the years, it is exactly that. They have never tried to erase what they shared. They have never disrespected each other publicly. They have never turned their story into something bitter. And in an industry where misunderstandings often lead to public conflicts, that kind of quiet loyalty is rare and powerful. The bond that time could not break. Years may have passed since the peak of Alden, but the connection between Alden and Maine continues to feel intact in a way that is difficult to explain. It's not loud. It's not constantly visible.
But it's there.
In the way they speak about each other with respect. In the way they carry themselves when their names are mentioned together. In the way they choose dignity over drama. That kind of bond doesn't need constant proof. It simply exists. Why fans still believe. The idea that Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza remain loyal to each other resonates deeply with fans because it aligns with everything they have seen from the beginning. Their story was never built on controversy. It was built on sincerity. And when something begins with sincerity, people tend to believe it can last, no matter how much time passes. For many supporters, this rumored statement from Vic Sotto doesn't feel like a surprise. It feels like a reminder. A different kind of love story. Not all love stories follow the same path. Some are loud and clearly defined. Others are quiet and open-ended. The story of Alden and Maine falls into the latter. It doesn't rely on labels or constant updates. Instead, it lives in moments, memories, and the way two people continue to treat each other even after the spotlight shifts. And maybe that's why it continues to resonate. Because it feels real in a way that doesn't need constant explanation. Respecting the present while honoring the past. As much as fans hold on to the idea of loyalty, there is also a growing understanding that both Alden and Maine have their own lives, their own journeys, and their own decisions. Supporting them means respecting those realities. It means appreciating what they shared, without forcing it to become something it may no longer be. And it means understanding that loyalty does not always mean staying the same. Sometimes it means growing separately while still holding respect for what once was. Final thoughts. Loyalty that speaks in silence. Whether or not the statement truly came from Vic Sotto, the idea of Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza remaining loyal to each other continues to inspire fans. Because in a world where relationships are often defined by noise and visibility, their connection is defined by something else. Silence, respect, and quiet understanding. And sometimes, the most genuine kind of loyalty is not the one that is constantly shown, but the one that never fades, even when no one is watching. Because in the end, loyalty is not about proving anything to the world. It's about staying true to a connection that once meant everything, and perhaps in its own quiet way still does. And as the conversation continues to ripple through social media and fan communities, something deeper begins to emerge. Not just curiosity, but a quiet sense of comfort. Because for many, The idea that Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza remain loyal to each other is not just about romance or speculation. It's about reassurance, a connection that grew beyond expectations. What started as a simple, unexpected pairing on Eat Balaga turned into something far more meaningful than anyone could have predicted. It wasn't planned. It wasn't forced. It simply happened, and that's what made it special. And when something begins that naturally, it often leaves a lasting imprint that doesn't easily disappear. That's why, even after years of change, fans still feel that the connection between Alden and Maine holds a kind of quiet truth. Loyalty in its purest form. The word loyalty is often misunderstood. People tend to associate it only with staying together, with constant presence, or with visible proof. But in reality, loyalty can exist in more subtle, more meaningful ways. For Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza, loyalty may be seen in choosing respect over controversy, protecting each other's names from negativity, not rewriting or denying the past, carrying forward the good, without bitterness. These are not loud actions, but they are powerful ones. The strength of unspoken understanding. One of the most beautiful aspects of their story is how much has been communicated without words. No constant explanations. No dramatic clarifications. Just quiet consistency. And sometimes, that kind of silence speaks louder than any public statement ever could. It tells people that not everything needs to be explained to be real. That some connections are better understood through actions, not announcements. Why this story still matters. In today's fast-paced world, where trends come and go almost instantly, it's rare for a story to remain relevant for years. Yet the story of Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza continues to hold space in people's hearts.
Why?
Because it represents something genuine. Something that people felt, not just watched. And once people feel something deeply, they don't easily forget it. Moving forward, without losing what was. As both Alden and Maine continue to grow individually, their journeys may look very different from what fans once imagined.
And that's okay.
Because growth does not erase connection. It simply reshapes it. They can move forward in their own paths, build their own futures, and still carry a quiet respect for what they once shared. That, in itself, is a form of loyalty. Final reflection. A bond that stays. At the end of it all, whether confirmed or not, the idea that Alden Richards and Maine Mendoza remain loyal to each other continues to resonate because it reflects something people rarely see in the public eye. Consistency, grace, and emotional maturity. Because in a world full of changing narratives, there is something incredibly powerful about a connection that chooses to remain kind no matter how much time has passed. And maybe that is the real story here. Not just whether they are still loyal, but how they have chosen to honor what they had in the most respectful way possible. Quietly, sincerely, and without needing to prove it to anyone.